According to Hector Gomez on X, Sandy Alcantara knows that he's getting traded.
You are Locked On Marlins, your daily podcast on the Miami Marlins.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Marlins. I'm your host, Jeremiah Geiger. I've been a diehard fan of the Marlins since I was 12 years old, and I've been podcasting about the team for the last 4 seasons. You can find me on X at Jeremiah Geiger 2, and thank you for making Locked On Marlins your first listen of the day. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. Don't forget to hit subscribe on the YouTube channel and let me know your thoughts in the comment section. And welcoming on today's show is a very special guest, Dave Hunt, at Miami Marlins UK over on X. Dave, how are we doing?
Yeah, good. Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's good to get back on after some time.
Yeah, I'm excited for this one. And we got to start it off by talking about Sandy Alcantara. So I'm going to read you this tweet to all the listeners. Hector Gomez, he's a MLB insider over on X, and he tweeted late last night, that a person very close to Sandy Alcantara told him he'll be traded. Quote, he's aware he'll be traded and has already packed all his things to leave Miami. Padres, Cubs, and Blue Jays have reached out to the Marlins to inquire about him. Well, that certainly provides some clarity on what the situation is. And if that tweet by Hector's correct, that somebody isn't just saying this, then it seems like Sandy Alcantara's time as a Marlin is in the final stages. And that's a lot to process because it's starting to feel real, isn't it, Dave? Like I'm starting to, from the fan perspective, realize Alcantara is probably not going to be a Marlin.
Yeah, I think for the past week, I've kind of been telling myself, it's all just been built up online. It was talked about in commentary the other day when he was pitching, and I kept telling myself, no, they're just preparing us the worst. He'll end up staying, and we're there. And I don't feel ready for Sandy to move on, even though I've been prepping myself since, probably a year ago for this potential day to come. But I think you're right. I think it looks like we're there, and it's a sad day for the Marlins because he's almost become like a figurehead of the ball club, and for this moment to be here, I feel sadness. And I hope though that Sandy's career goes on to be as fantastic as I think we all know it can be. It's just a shame that won't be with the Marlins.
It kind of reminds me a little bit of last year where the Marlins, they were going to trade Jazz, and I knew they were going to trade him. It had to happen. It's a lot different last year than this year because a season ago they were trading everybody. They had to clear house, start fresh, and just get more talent in the farm system. But when the notification actually hit that Jazz Chisholm was traded, I felt sadness. It was like I was excited for Agustin Ramirez and to see, the new wave of talent, but there's a connection. When you care deeply about a team and you get invested in the players and you watch them every day. It's not like, football where you're watching a game a week. You're watching this team every single day. You're listening to podcasts. They're a part of your life for 9 months. And Sandy Alcantara has been a Marlin since 2018. I mean, we're pushing almost a decade. We've seen 2 rebuilds, and this is the fan perspective and the business perspective. I think sometimes collide with each other, especially with a player like Sandy. But on the business perspective, you have to take a look at some of these teams that he talked about. Hector said the Padres, the Cubs, and the Blue Jays. And you and I both really like the Cubs farm system. I think if a Sandy trade was to occur, that would be the ideal target. For me, it's the Cubs or also the Red Sox, maybe.
Yeah, I think you're right there. First of all, just touching on what you said, baseball's a weird sport in that way, in the fact that you can fall in love with a player really quickly because there's so many games in quick succession that it's easy to start thinking, I like that guy, I like that guy, I like that guy. And before you know it, you're only 4 weeks in and you think he's the greatest thing since sliced bread. And that's, when you talk about 8 years with the Marlins, that's unusual in the current climate. And yeah, you're right. But going back to what you're saying about the potential teams, I completely agree. For me, the Cubs are right up there. If you look at the farm systems that we're going to be taking prospects from in return for Sandy, I don't see what the Padres have got, because for me, we want more ready to go.
Right.
We're in a position where we don't want to be taking somebody that's going to be ready in 2027, 2028. We want somebody that's going to be ready now or very, very soon. And if you look at the Padres system and in a way, the Blue Jays system, there's not much there for me that I'm going to get excited about straight away. Now, the Cubs, that's different. I think the Cubs and the Marlins are perfect trading partners in this window, and that's where I see. I mean, we could name half the Cubs system, and I think we'd start to get a little bit excited. Let's be honest. I know you're a big fan of Owen Casey, and that's the sort of level of prospect that we're talking about. We're not talking about the 25th prospect or the 27th prospect. We're talking top guys in return.
And I think another aspect of the potential trade is how do both parties handle the money involved? Because, for a pitcher, Sandy Alcantara signed a team-friendly deal, but he's still making $17 million this year. I believe $17 million next year or $21 million next year. The number's up there. And, if the Marlins want to get rid of that money, they might have to take a hit in terms of prospect capital. And it's an important decision for Bruce Sherman as the owner, and to be able to work with Peter Bendix and say, okay, I understand you could have a deal in place where you're getting this player who's much more, impactful, but that means I have to pay down some of his salary. I wonder if they're just going to treat it as a true salary dump, because to a degree, I think this would be a statement, ironically, while losing a player, where it's a statement we're trying to get better if you pay some of that salary to get a better prospect return, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And I think there's so much talk around the Marlins and finances all the time. Normally in joke format, to be completely honest. and it will be interesting to see how they balance this, because like you say, the Marlins finances at the moment are, I believe we're still right at the bottom in terms of MLB spend. And how this deal affects us is going to be quite complex. Because it's not just what we spend now, it's what we spend in 2026, what we spend in 2027. So it's a good point. Is it going to be treated as a sold off salary dump? So I guess the coming days will tell. But with those partners in trade, the Red Sox and the Cubs, I don't know. I think the Red Sox are more likely to be the ones where the deal works better in favor of the Marlins financially. But we'll see.
Yeah, it's kind of ironic too that the Red Sox would be a trade partner for the Marlins after having traded one of their franchise players in Rafael Devers. And I mean, they operate like a small market team. And if you're a Red Sox fan, I'd be infuriated, not even a little upset. I'd be infuriated at how you handle this, because the Marlins, we all know it. They're trying to succeed operating with a low payroll. That's how it is. And that's why the Sandy trade is probably internally up at the top of their lists because of salary. I hate to say it, but they look at that and they say, okay, he's going to make 17 million, 21 million. Let's get it off the books. That's how this team operates. And I don't like it. I want to come to a meeting place between the analytics and the money ball and also spending money, because I think you could have a real monster if you combine those two and you sign a couple free agents this offseason and you build with the core that you've established. And will that happen? It's probably unlikely, but I think it has to happen to reach where they want to go.
Yeah, I agree. I think at the moment we're more looking at building around what we've got rather than adding. I mean, I saw some story online earlier today where the main building points are both Yuri and Kyle Stowers going forward, and it's great to hear that they are seeing Kyle Stowers as something to build around because he's been so impactful, especially over the last 2-3 months. That's something Marlin fans needed to hear and want to hear. So I hope that we do build around that core. And again, if we can add to that, great. Do I see it happening? As it stands, no. And for me, that I'm the same as you. I don't like that. I want to see us spending, but spending sensibly in a way that we blend it with the analytics approach, because we are starting to see a return on that. We are.
Exactly. Yes.
But you've got to blend the two. You can't be fully reliant on statisticians and analytics. We know it. You don't have to throw money at everything. And other teams are proving that. Even the Dodgers, look at the run they've gone on recently where, the money that team is spending is just, I mean, it's borderline on criminal, isn't it? Let's be completely honest.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Spend on their payroll. And they've gone on, what was it, a 7-game losing streak at one point?
Yeah,
maybe longer.
Recently.
It was crazy. So it's blending those two together, and it's how the Marlins do that. And when do we start seeing that spend come back in? Because it needs to be sooner rather than later. We've done so well at this point without the heavy spend, but with Sandy coming off books, that spend drops even more. Let's start seeing some dollars thrown around.
I'm right there with you. And coming up next, we're going to talk about the next wave of the Marlins core prospects, and we're going to talk. Do we think that they're going to make an impact? It's called buy or sell. That's coming up right after this. Have you ever decided at the last minute to head to a ball game with friends or family? Maybe it's game day and you suddenly realize you want to be in the stands. That's exactly where Gametime comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merchandise. Gametime makes it all possible. Gametime makes buying tickets fast and simple. The prices on the app, they actually drop closer to first pitch or kickoff, whatever sporting event you go to. I myself love using Gametime. That's the only real app I use because of the all-in pricing is another aspect I really like. You're going to see exactly what you pay for. There's no hidden fees. So when you go to checkout, all you do is buy, you hit click, and that's it. And it's a really good feature. So if you take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime, all you got to do, download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. I appreciate all the everyday listeners out there being part of the Locked On Marlins crew. Share the podcast with any Marlins fans, friends that you know. Let's keep growing this thing Monday through Friday all summer long. Buy or sell prospect edition with Dave Hunt. The first prospect we got to talk about is Jakob Marsee, and I could not be more excited to watch this guy get the call up. He's just been on an absolute heater this season. I turned on the Jacksonville game last night because I was like, oh, there is baseball on. Like the Marlins weren't playing, but we'll check out the Jumbo Shrimp. And Marcy's up to bat, smacks a double the opposite way off the wall, steals third base, and then the pitch kicked away from the catcher, races home. You could have called it a stolen base of home if you really wanted to. The dude's electric, and he's going to make an impact in Miami very soon.
He is. He's hitting well. He's hitting into the 250s now. He's hitting balls left, right, and center. Doubles. Does he have any triples in yet?
Let's see.
He has 5, I believe.
5 triples, yeah.
So, I mean, we're talking a guy that can bring something pretty quickly. I mean, he's hit, what, is it 13, 14 homers
13
now?
bombs.
Yep. he's the one for me at the moment. And not the one solely. There is another one which I think we're going to talk about shortly that I'm very excited about. But for me, that was one I wasn't expecting to be excited about when he first came to the organisation. But now I am, and that's the sort of guy that when he comes up to the show, I think we're going to see an instant impact, and I really believe that. I think he's somebody that can add straight away. But he's honing his game, and he's honing it well, and it's great to see him getting the shrimp up there. Because the shrimp are a fun watch, let's be honest, at the moment. They are really, really fun to watch. And I am repping the shrimp again.
Nice. Yeah, they're a fun team. And Marsee, just like you said, the expectations I had for him, I knew he walked a lot. But, I mean, let's be honest. Last year across 3 levels, he hit 200 even. And to me, that was an area of concern. How is that going to play in the major leagues? Can he be something above a 4th outfielder? And now I think I'm just excited because he's right there. He's on the precipice of the call-up. We're going to talk about Joe Mack coming up next, who arguably, could be a higher impact because of his positional value and value at the bat as well. But Marsee is an exciting player, and I expect him to be wearing a Marlins jersey in the next week and a half. Well, I mean, after the trade deadline, I think when Sanchez gets traded, Marsee's the call-up.
He's the perfect fit, isn't he? Unless we get some sort of trade point from either Sanchez or possibly Sandy that will slot straight in. But if not, I fully agree with you that Jakob Marsee's the one. And the other thing I like about Marsee is he fits in with that culture that seems to be in place at the Marlins at the moment, that hungry, that we want to win together, we want to be a Marlin. You already get that when you listen to Marsee talk. He's planning ahead for the future. He's planning to be part of this organization. And it really feels like that's running through the organization from top to bottom at the moment, wanting to be part of the Marlins organization. And I think he's in that caliber, and that means a lot to me. Because that's what we want. We want guys to be in Miami. We want guys to wear that Marlins jersey and want to be there. And for me, Marsee's definitely one of those. And coupled with what he's showing, I think he's going to really excite us, and I agree. I think we'll see him within the next 2 weeks.
I like it. Yeah, I can't wait. Joe Mack is another player who's right there. In AAA, he got the call up when Agustin Ramirez got promoted from AAA to Miami, and we love Agustin Ramirez and what he's done. But Joe Mack, to me, is the Marlins catcher of the future. Like, there's no scenario in 2026 where Joe Mack's not the everyday catcher unless he's injured. I just view it as simple as that. Liam Hicks, he's been a great find. Rule 5 draft pick. Nick Fortes is a veteran, but I think he's on his way out of here this deadline as well. And Agustin Ramirez, he's not good defensively. Joe Mack is the real deal. He's a great defender, a rocket arm, and he hits rockets as well.
He does. And I love Agustin Ramirez. Let's just get that out of the way now. He's bought so much offensively, but a catcher he's not. And you can see that day in, day out. And I don't want to focus too heavily on that negative, but there's more that Gus can offer the team, either as a DH or in another position. And we could try him at first base at this stage. But the beauty of it is that we know that we can just slot somebody who is going to be a top catcher in the big leagues in Joe Mack straight in there. And like you say, I believe in 2026, Joe Mack will be one of those names where if it's not on the team sheet, you'll go, why?
Right.
Because he adds defensively, he adds offensively such a presence. And don't get me wrong, our catching it's a trio at the moment, isn't it, that we have up there. They're doing the job, and it's funny when you see 3 catchers in a team, but that will all end very quickly when Joe Mack gets up there, depending on where we utilize Gus afterwards, whether it's as a DH or whether we do give him that chance at first base, where I'd like to see him tried out. But you're right, Mack's the one for the future. And earlier when we were talking about Jakob Marsee, and I said he's the one, oh no, wait, hang on, there's another one. It was 100% Joe Mack I was referring to. Really exciting future in that in that guy.
Yeah, and for Augustine, like I think it would benefit him offensively to just take the pressure off his shoulders. Say, all right, you're just going to hit and go be a masher because that's what you are. You just crush baseballs and the swing is gorgeous. I mean, first base, that could solve a corner position as well if he can learn first and be adequate defensively there. Nothing special, but it has to be, better than what we're getting defensively. But he's there. He's in Miami for his bat first and foremost. And Joe Mack is right there waiting to make an impact. The next player we got to talk about is a controversial one. Is Jacob Berry. Because recently there's been a lot of hype surrounding Berry and even clamoring for a call up to the big leagues. And I want to say I don't buy it. I'm selling on Jacob Berry. I think he's made somewhat of an impact in AAA in the minors, but when I look at this guy being part of the Marlins' future and being a cornerstone player, will he get a call up eventually? Probably, but is he going to be a fixture here? No,
and I agree. I want to like Jacob Berry. I do, because I feel the organization has invested in him. We've seen flashes of that guy, and we've seen it a lot recently. But for me, I'm not seeing something that will move up with him to the big leagues. I almost get sort of a Matt Mervis feel, where you've got somebody that is going to do well at AAA level. And we've seen that. Matt Mervis came up and, bless him, did so well in terms of hitting homers over about a 3-week period, and then absolutely fell off a cliff face. He's gone back down to Jacksonville, and he's been fantastic. And I think you'll see a similar thing with Jacob Berry, where he can give you something at minor league level, but I just don't see it coming up to the big league with him. And I'm fully with you on this one. I want to like him, Jeremiah. I do. I really want to like him, but I don't think he's one for the Marlins' future. And maybe he's one where we could use him as a trade piece for the right move for a team that maybe does think they can invest in him further. But for me, his time at the Marlins will come, and I hope he shuts us both up. I really do. I'd love him to have a great run, but I don't see it happening.
Yeah, it's tough to root it's tough to root against the player. You don't want to root against the Marlin. That's not what we're trying to do here. It's just we're also we see how baseball's played, and we see what type of players the Marlins are trying to build around. And while he's salvaged his career, so to speak, I mean it's miles ahead better than what he used to do. It's still not somebody that I expect to be sustainable long term. You look at across a full season. You really think Jacob Berry is going to come up here and provide, a positive results for 145 games? I don't see it, but that's why we play the games, and if he gets his chance, that's all you can do with it. And coming up next, we're going to talk about the major league side of things. The Marlins are kicking off a 3-game set with the Milwaukee Brewers. We're going to preview that series and also just talk about what do we want to see the Marlins do over this 3-game span. And that's coming up right after this. Today's episode is brought to you by Gameday Hue, and so this is the hat I'm wearing. For Marlins fans like me, this one hits the mark. Gameday Hue makes clean, no-logo gear with team-inspired colorways for every professional and college fan base. It's all about letting your colors speak for you. No giant logos, just smart, versatile style that works on game day, on the golf course, or anywhere in between. The gear's real subtle. You walk down the street, you got a Marlins shirt on, but no Marlins hat, but you're repping the colors. You got the blue here, you got the black. It's a perfect game day fit. If you want to go golfing, I don't go golfing, but if you do, you got your gloves here. Not just hats, split shade gloves, 2 colors, made for the golf course, or it's a perfect gift for the fan that has everything. So right now, if you want to rep your team in subtle fashion, you can get 15% off with code MLB15 at GamedayHue.com. That's GamedayHue.com. The code even stacks on bundle deals, so now's the time to load up. Let your colors talk, because colors speak louder than words. That's GamedayHue.com, code MLB15. Back here with Dave Hunt, we're going to preview the Marlins and Brewers series. 3-game set. The Brewers, probably the hottest team in baseball over the last month and a half. Marlins, second hottest team in baseball. So, real fun series this time in Milwaukee. They had a set back in at Lone Depot Park. The Brewers are an interesting team because I don't think a lot of people expected them to be this good. I didn't expect them to be this good. But the Marlins can go in and do some damage, and I think they have the right combo of guys to do so, especially, let's start with the obvious, if Kyle Stowers keeps hitting well.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be an exciting 3 days, and it was at Lone Depot, and I'm looking forward to watching this one. Luckily, you get 2 UK-friendly games as part of this series, so lucky me. Yeah, we need to see Kyle continue this hot streak. Be fantastic. Be good to see Gus getting back to his form as well. And I think they're the main 2 for me that I want to see offensively. I think is it Cal we've got tonight?
Yep,
and
Cal
tomorrow. I don't think we've penciled in anyone for the third game as of yet. But
it's Yuri.
Is it Yuri? Yes. So I mean, we're looking good, and it's going to be an interesting matchup between the 2. Like you say, over 30 games, is it with by far the 2 hottest teams in baseball? Let's hope we see that. I want to see some big scoring games, hopefully on the side of the Marlins more than the Brewers.
Yeah.
But I agree with what you said there. Did anyone out there really expect the Brewers to be this strong so quickly? And I certainly didn't. They're looking well-oiled, but we gave them a good run last time out, and hopefully we can take that to Milwaukee.
And the good thing for the Marlins, I was looking at the pitching matchups. We get to pass on Jakob Marsee for the second time.
Yeah.
Thank goodness. That guy's incredible. But the pitching matchups today is Cal Quantrill and Freddie Peralta. Peralta's Mr. Consistent year in and year out. And then tomorrow, Jansen Junk against the veteran Jose Quintana. And then my favorite pitching matchup of the weekend is Yuri Perez versus Brandon Woodruff. Woodruff, of course, coming back off of injury, hadn't pitched in a year and a half, much like Sandy Alcantara. He missed the entire season of 2024, but he started this season off really hot. And his first start of the year was against these Marlins back in Miami, and he pitched very well. So the Marlins have their work cut out for them. But I look, at the record, and the Marlins sitting at 48-53. If you take 2 out of 3, you've won 4 straight series. You're now right under 500. We're not going to go say bye at the deadline and trade prospects away, but you can also, have some hope as a Marlins fan that this team is gelling at the perfect time, and maybe, Dave, they shock the world.
Yeah, I think we are getting to that stage, aren't we? And you just talk about that record there. It really makes that sweep by the Rockies and the series lost to the White Sox, for example, feel all that more painful, because if that wasn't the case, we'd be looking at a winning record right now. And would that mean what we're doing in the next week would change? I don't know. But certainly I agree with you. If we can take 2 games from this and go into the final days of the trade window with a nigh on 500 record, then we've got to be smiling, haven't we? Come on, we're getting to that point where we've got to be smiling and looking up and thinking. If you look at the teams above us, I don't have massive confidence in any of them at the moment, but I do have confidence in the Marlins. And for a start, let's just take stock in what I've just said. I'm saying that I don't have confidence in teams above the Marlins, and I do have confidence in the Marlins at this stage of the season. Did you in any way think that you'd be talking to somebody saying that 6 months ago?
Never. I would have laughed. It's like if you take 2 out of 3, who knows? Maybe you sweep. And we're recording this right before the game, a couple hours before the game. There's a scenario in which you go to the deadline And I think it slightly changes your approach from, I think the Cabrera trade is up in the air now. Unless you get the best offer, because he has 3 years of control. I know I go back and forth in my head thinking, do they trade him? Should they hold him? Because you don't want to approach this deadline as buyers. I don't think that's wise.
The Marlins aren't buyers. No, they're
Right.
not. And I think if I have seen people suggest that the Marlins may be buyers out there, and for me, we're not. The Marlins are not buyers. But the Marlins, with their form over the last, let's say 6 weeks, and with the form going into the trade deadline, have gone from being sellers to soft sellers for me.
Right.
And I don't think in this situation that both Sandy and Eddie will leave unless the haul is really, really impressive. And I think the fact that we've got this news coming out about Sandy now, for me, I've spent the last 2 or 3 days thinking, which one will it be? I think we've got our answer now. And I hope that regardless of the series result over in Milwaukee, that we still see Eddie as a Marlin in a week's time. And I think if we do take 2, or even, it is unlikely, I will say the 3, but then surely we see Eddie as a Marlin in a week's time. And I really think it will change things in the next few days. Like I say, really pushing us down into that soft sell category. Do you agree? Do you think that that's where we're...
Yeah, I like what you referred to as one or the other and not both, because I think when we started the show and I talked about the Hector Gomez tweet about Sandy Alcantara knows he's gone, that makes me think Sandy Alcantara is getting traded. And maybe the world, goes somewhere else and the Marlins, and this is just completely wrong. But the reason why Edward Cabrera is so tough to trade, because you need everything for him. He has 3 years of control. And the confidence I see when Cabrera pitches is unlike any other season. When Cabrera is pitching, he is in total command. You see it on his face. Like he's the bulldog. He's the alpha. He's locked in. And there's a scenario in which you trade him now. And in 2027, he is pitching against you in a wild card matchup, like in an NLDS matchup. And that to me would hurt. That would sting, because if a team is willing to give up a boatload of prospects, then that shows me they are 100% bought in on Edward Cabrera, and their scouting department is, and the analytical department is. So what are the Marlins bought in? Are they bought in 100% on Edward Cabrera? And they think, you know what? 3 years of control, it kind of fits this window. We'll trade Sandy. Okay. We'll trade Sandy. We'll trade Bender, but Cabrera, we're holding on to this guy. He is legit. It's interesting. I can't wait to see how this unfolds.
With how Eddie's been this season, it really gives you a bit more confidence in saying that if we do, as we expect to, lose Sandy, that we've got Yuri and Edward Cabrera at the top of our rotation. That's a nice feeling. And again, I've said this twice now, 6 months ago, would you have been saying that? if I'd have said that to you, that we'd be talking about Edward Cabrera being right at the top of our estimations of future Marlins pitching over the next at least 6 to 18 months. And that's what we're saying. We're saying that we've got 3 years control. Let's utilize that. Let's build around him as well as Yuri, and not lose him to regret it when he's throwing Ks at Marlins left, right, and center in 2 years. Time.
You know what's going to happen. That's just how the Marlins.
It's the Marlins way.
Yep.
But for me, we are there now where I really, really hope it is one or the other. I really, really do, rather than both. And if it is both, my goodness, do I want to see some exciting talent coming into the Marlins system, because we can't lose those 2 top guys. And I know Sandy hasn't had the greatest year in the world,
but he's still Sandy.
He's still Sandy. He's still a top guy. He showed it last week. In a way, I wish we'd had that Sandy 3 weeks ago, so we could have seen 3 back-to-back performances. But we didn't. But he's there. He's there. Sandy Alcantara is not going away. And yeah, like I say, I hope for the Marlins that we are talking just Sunday and not Sunday and Eddie.
I feel like right now, as this is a week before the deadline, and we'll wrap it up here in a second, I kind of want to keep Cabrera over Sandy as much as it pains me, and it feels like it's sacrilegious to say this, but I'd rather have Cabrera than Sandy if they're going to trade one, and that's where I am a week away.
I'm there with you. I really am. And I'm going to go back in time and play this to me and you 6 months ago, and we're going to
laugh
and go, what?
Oh, man. No, Dave, it was awesome having you on the show. I want to thank you once again for coming on.
Yeah, it's been great. Thanks for having me. Really enjoyed it. It's always great to talk Marlins.
And for your next listen, go check out the new Locked On MLB Game Night. They recap every game every night over on the Locked On MLB channel. And until next time, guys, stay safe, stay locked on, and let's go fish.